Euro 2024 is finally here. Over the next week, we'll be building up to the tournament in Germany with a preview from each group. Today, we start with Group A. Alright, let's get into Group A, our first preview for the European Championships this summer. Of course, Group A comprising of hosts Germany, Hungary, Scotland and Switzerland. Quite a competitive group, I'd say.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, especially with the form of Germany over the most recent years. I think this could be very, very competitive. Anyone, for me, could top the group. Maybe not Scotland, but we'll see. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a good fight for those two spaces.
Yeah, well, you put Scotland down there, but they've been in really good form heading into this tournament. Let's go through all the teams individually. That's what we're going to do for all of these groups as we build up to the Euros. We're going to start with hosts Germany, as they are first in alphabetical order. Now, it's something we've not seen recently, is that host advantage. If you think back to the most recent major tournaments, obviously Qatar saw no such advantage. Neither did Russia in 2018, and Euro 2020 didn't have a host. It was loads of different countries. So we haven't really seen this in a few years. What impact could host advantage have for Germany?
I mean, yeah, it could be absolutely massive. It has always been, if you look back in quite a long time ago, it was a very, very big thing. Even you could take Euro 2020 and look at England. Playing their semi-final and the final on home soil, absolutely massive. Helped the team massively. Imagine doing that for every single game. I do think home advantage, especially with an optimistic country, could definitely be a huge help for Germany.
Yeah, it's wonderful as well to have the Euros back in a host country, have one set place, because I think that does add to the atmosphere, add to the tournament style, to really increase the atmosphere. And yeah, I think Germany's a perfect host as well. They've got the perfect infrastructure to host a massive tournament like this. Germany, of course, 3 times winners of the European Championship, so they come in with a lot of pedigree. Under new management in Julian Nagelsmann, is that a good thing? Is Nagelsmann, I'd argue he's one of the best managers in the international space.
Yeah, 100%. They've got a very, very strong pedigree, but it's been a really rough few years for Germany. They've been pretty poor at recent tournaments. They've slipped to 16th in the world rankings, and it has been a really, really tough last few major tournaments for the Germans. But as you say, Nagelsmann, a very, very top quality coach. His first tournament, but I don't think that's going to faze him at all. He is a very, very good manager, and he could be the difference between Germany, being the upset of the tournament, to Germany potentially being the winners of the tournament. Who knows?
Yeah, it has been a dark period for the German national side. Obviously, things went bad with Joachim Low after a few years, and it turned really sour under Hansi Flick in Qatar. But I do think they've made a really solid appointment. I think Nagelsmann is an elite manager. I'm very surprised he's chosen to stay with Germany beyond this Euros. I think he could have been a shoo-in for a lot of the top jobs, and perhaps will be in consideration for top jobs after his stint as Germany manager. Well, you would expect so. So I definitely think that adds a layer, because you look at other managers that are successful in the international space, and players like Gareth Southgate don't even polish the shoes of Julian Nagelsmann. So that does have a huge impact. If he can implement his tactics, he doesn't have the time that he'd like to have, obviously, as a club manager would. But if he can implement his tactics, his philosophies to this German side, I think that could be really, really successful, given the fact he knows a lot of them as well, because he's coached, obviously, RB Leipzig, he's coached Bayern Munich, 2 big sides in Germany, who will have a lot of players in this Germany squad. I definitely think that could work out really, really nicely. So I'll be intrigued to see how that goes. Let's talk key players then, because we are going to do that for every team. Now, with Germany, of course, there is a plethora of talent. Who would you pick out, though, Harry, as that key player?
Well, yeah, this is a close one for me, but I think you have to go Florian Wirtz. He is a phenomenal footballer, has had an incredible season in that Leverkusen super team of sorts.
Yeah.
He has shined under incredible management, and that is what happens when you put elite managers with elite players. They shine, and Florian Wirtz is the type of player that on home soil under Julian Nagelsmann could absolutely thrive for Germany. He is the one that if Germany are going to go deep in this tournament, he is going to push them all the way there. I think he'll have help from players like Kai Havertz, who has looked really, really strong for Arsenal in the last few weeks and is coming into this tournament in very, very good form. But Wirtz is your main man. If Germany are to win or to go far in this Euros, he will be the man, responsible for most of it.
Yeah, especially considering Nagelsmann's dedication to playing very narrow football, commitment to playing very narrow football. I think players like Florian Wirtz, really technically gifted, creative players like Wirtz, like Musiala, like Toni Kroos, like Ilkay Gundogan, I think these players are going to be really crucial for Germany. And actually, we've seen in most recent internationals him using Wirtz on one flank, Musiala on the other. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether that remains the same, whether Leroy Sané comes in. But I wouldn't be surprised to see both Wirtz and Musiala line up as the wingers. Two players that aren't traditionally wingers, but in a Nagelsmann system that's very narrow, it makes a lot of sense. Let's have a look at how this Germany side is expected to line up then. So I've put it down as a 4-2-3-1. Again, personnel might be slightly off here, but it's a pretty typical Nagelsmann formation, you know. You've got, as I say, those wingers that are more like attacking midfielders, going to be very, very narrow. I think a lot of people criticising this defence. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at it, and there's only one world-class defender in there, and that is Antonio Rudiger. And don't get me wrong, Raum, Schlotterbeck, the likes, they're very, very good defenders. But if we're looking at that elite level, world-class defender, for me, Rudiger is the only one there, and that could let them down slightly.
Yeah, do you think we'll see Schlotterbeck all round? Because looking at the most recent internationals, Jonathan Tah obviously favoured over Schlotterbeck. Now, Tah's had a really good season at Bayer Leverkusen, and it does seem that he's preferred there. But equally, Schlotterbeck might be a Champions League winner. We're recording in advance, so we don't know yet, unfortunately. But he could be a Champions League winner by this point. You've got Joshua Kimmich in there at right back as well. Now, we did see in I think it was the France game, where he used Kai Havertz as a left back and inverted him into midfield, which is an interesting experiment. Could we see him do something similar with Joshua Kimmich?
Potentially so. I mean, it'd be an interesting call to experiment in an international tournament, but if he knows...
If any man's going to do it.
Exactly. If he backs himself and he backs Kimmich and his players to make it work, then we could see something inventive that really helps Germany here.
That does feel like a very Nagelsmann and very Kimmich. That feels like the perfect role for Joshua Kimmich. He is a midfielder by trade that can play at right back as well. We expect him to line up at right back. It'll probably be a pivot of Kroos and Andrich, which means Gundogan attack midfield. Do you think that Gundogan and Kroos can coexist in this side, or is there a bit of a clash there?
I mean, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? But I think they can make it work. They're two very, very good players, and obviously for Kroos, this is an absolutely massive tournament. His last dance for Germany, his last chance to get hold of some international silverware. It's a big tournament for him and for Gundogan as well. As you say, they're both very, very good players. I think they'll make it work in there. Use each other to play even better. To be honest, and I think Germany are very lucky to have two world-class midfielders at their disposal.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to see if Ilkay Gundogan was dropped though, and because they could use Musiala or Wirtz in that central role, and then bring in Leroy Sané. So we could definitely see a huge omission from this national side. Either way, even if Sané's bench, that's a huge omission. So, I mean, that really speaks to the calibre of this Germany side, that it's so difficult to fit everybody in.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Let's move on to Hungary up next then. I think a lot of people should be marking Hungary as dark horses, and they won't, because they are a relatively small national side, but they have done incredibly well over recent seasons. They've got a highest position of third in Euros history. But they are a very strong squad. They've got Marco Rossi, their manager, who has completely transformed Hungary in recent seasons. When he took over in 2018, I believe it was, they were 51st in the world and they had only 3 wins in their last 14 matches. They're now 26th, back-to-back European Championships qualification. What a turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely incredible. And to be honest, watching Hungary is quite exciting at the moment. It is just this balls to the wall, let's have fun kind of football. It's very, very enjoyable, and it's paying off. They're going out, they're scoring goals, and they're beating sides. I mean, unbeaten in the qualifiers is absolutely incredible. That is a ridiculous record. Saying they aren't one of the bigger elite nations, they've gone out there and they've kind of put their name potentially in the hat with the big sides. And I've been very, very impressed with what Rossi has managed to do. And for Hungary, maybe this is the tournament where, I'm not saying they're going to go win it, I'm not saying they're going to go reach the final, but is this the tournament where Hungary can do well, go on a nice run, reach the quarters, reach the semis, push big sides, beat the big nations? And, I think this could be a very, very positive tournament for Hungary, especially they'll look at this group and they'll fancy themselves. They will believe that they can get out of this group. I mean, they're a top quality side. They've got a brilliant record against Germany. They will fancy themselves to top this group.
Yeah, and I mean, you've only got to look at their UEFA Nations League, the most recent edition of that competition that everybody loves. And they've only got to look at that to see how good Hungary are, because in that, they were in a group with England, Italy and Germany, I believe, and they weren't relegated. It was England, that was relegated. They beat England, I think, in one of the games. I think they beat Germany as well. They really threw their weight about in that group. So I think there's a serious chance here for Hungary to be the dark horse of the tournament. I think this group is not difficult to get out of. Yes, Scotland and Switzerland are both going to offer challenges, and of course Germany are a very good nation. But if we're sat here in a few weeks' time talking about Hungary topping the group, I wouldn't be stunned. No. I think that's a testament to the work that Rossi's done, a testament to the players that are coming through. I think you've got some really exciting ones. Let's talk about the key player. Now, it's going to be a really obvious one, but of course, Dominik Szoboszlai. What a fantastic footballer. One of the most technically gifted footballers. He's so good at striking the ball. It makes him such a danger because Szoboszlai can pick up the ball in any area of the field and hit a shot, and it's quite likely to go in. He's very well renowned for those long shots. He's a set-piece threat. He's also, in this Hungary role, playing on the left side of that front three, given a lot of free reign, a lot of movement, a lot of freedom to control the game, dictate the tempo, and he's a player who can really make things tick and really change games for Hungary.
Yeah, and obviously that is brilliant, and he is the focal point of this Hungary side. I do have slight reservations that maybe there is a slight over-reliance on Szoboszlai to do his magic. You know, the defence aren't the best in the world, and up against the elite sides, yes, they've thrown their weight about, and yes, they've gone there, and they've done it in qualifying, they've done it in the Nation League. But when it comes down to the big major tournaments, when they play Germany, will that defence hold up, or will the German attack manage to unlock it and pick their way through it? Who knows? But I think they're a decent outfit. Yes, they've got the individual quality in Szoboszlai. They might lack quality everywhere else, but it's that unit. It's that the way they work, that they defend as a team, that means they don't require world-class defenders because they're such a great defensive unit, and they're such a great unit across the pitch, really, that they manage to work together. But obviously, Szoboszlai has a big helping hand in that.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing, they are very regimented, very disciplined in defence. They've still got some really quality players like Willie Orban, of course, who has been, I believe is their captain, a real spirited... No, sorry, Szoboszlai, I think that's the captain. But really spirited leader in the back line. You've got really attacking fullbacks in Milos Kerkez, who we've seen excel at times in the Premier League this season, and Nego, who put up a few assists in qualifiers. Now, I know their qualifying group was relatively easy, but they still were unbeaten through all that. And I think that really puts them in a really strong position. I think Hungary are probably going to be my dark horse for the tournament. I think they've got a really good...
Fair enough.
I feel like a lot of people might be backing them like they did with Turkey in the last one, and that went really well. But I think that would be with merit. They play a really exciting 3-4-3, as we'll show on screen now. With the pivot, it's very championship. Styles and Adam Nagy. Adam Nagy, obviously formerly of Bristol City. Styles, I think, plays for... I want to say Barnsley, but I can't remember. Someone in the Championship or League One. So, yeah, they've got a lot of players that have English football experience, which is quite a weird link. But yeah, a really strong side, and someone who I think could be a serious threat to get into the knockouts of this tournament.
100%. If I was you, keep your eyes on Hungary.
Yes, definitely do. Let's move over to Scotland then, one of the home nations in a sense. Obviously, for our audience, I'm sure we'll have some Scottish viewers, and to be fair, we can clown on Scotland, but just by qualifying, they matched their best ever Euros performance. They've never got past the group stage, but I think this season there's a lot more positivity around the Scotland camp.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, qualifying we talk about Hungary being unbeaten. Scotland only took one loss from that, and that is very strong in itself.
That was Spain, I think.
But also we know they beat Spain, and
Scott McSauce balling out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing for Scotland, is people might say it's individual quality, but I look across the team and I think they've got some decent players across the pitch. And
I thought you were going to say there's no quality. That was harsh.
They'll give it a really, really good go. And I think you have to admire the work that Steve Clarke is doing. And he's stuck with that Scotland side for a few years. They've had a couple of near misses, couple of here and there. But as you say, into the group stage once again, they're going to make a good go of it. They'll look at this group. They'll know it's a strong group, and I think that was the main problem for Scotland, is this is a very difficult group to get out of. We've already spoke about Germany and Hungary, and we'll get on to Switzerland later. 3 top quality sides that are going to be difficult to pick points up. But who knows, Scotland go out there, they could surprise us. Maybe if Scott McTominay plays like he has been in the qualifiers, and him and John McGinn and the likes could be linking up, could cause some problems, but for Scotland, I think they'll give it a good go, but it's going to be difficult. Yeah,
I think Steve Clarke, I want to touch on him because he's someone who doesn't get the plaudits I think he deserves. His name doesn't carry the weight that a Julian Nagelsmann does in football circles. But a testament to what he's done. Scotland, they had a few years without qualifying for the European Championships. That's now back-to-back qualifications.
Incredible.
Which for a side who've never made it past the group stage, clearly he's working really well there. And so I think he deserves commendation for that. And let's talk key players now. I'm going to be quite obvious with this one as well. Scott McTominay. He was phenomenal in European qualifying, 7 goals. I mean, that puts him, I think, 4th in the his goal scorers for the qualifiers. So evidently he is the best player in the world. So what impact can him, because he plays a much higher role for Scotland than he does for United, what impact could he have in this tournament?
Yeah, 100%. If he can put up those goal scoring numbers,
or they'll win it
in the
7 goals, they win it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's the thing, they've got to use him. They've got a nice composition in there, as you say. McTominay, marauding forwards, John McGinn in there as well. It's a very, very good mix, and McTominay, clearly he's kind of the leader of this Scottish side. He drives them into battle, and you speak about Steve Clarke installing that never say die attitude, and Scott McTominay is kind of that first man on the battlefield charging at the opposition, just to make it sound very warrior-like. But in terms of football terms, he's a very, very good player. Clearly he's got some talents when he puts on that Scottish shirt, and clearly he can find the back of the net, and if he can do that here, he's going to upset the apple cart a little bit.
Yeah, let's turn our attention towards the tactical screen then. 3-4-3 for Scotland, but it often looks like a bit of a 5-4-1.
Yeah.
And it utilises players in positions we don't really see them in. It makes sense because they've got 3 quality left-backs. Now, I don't watch much football, but I don't think you can have 3 left-backs in the same team. Kieran Tierney operates the left centre-half, which is a role he can do very effectively. Obviously, Andy Robertson at left wing back. Aaron Hickey moves to right wing back. Then you've got McGinn and McTominay, who are central midfielders playing as wingers. But it works. It really works. So Scotland are a really decent outfit. They are going to have a few big misses. No Billy Gilmore, obviously out through injury. That one I think is a big shame because him and McGregor would have formed a really nice midfield pivot. I do think there's a little bit of a lack of firepower. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that lack of a prolific striker could cause Scotland problems. But as we spoke about, if Scott McTominay can step up and be that goal scorer, then maybe that weakness is nullified. And I mean, it's going to be tough. But if Scott McTominay can lead this Scottish side, and he's, as you say, they've got the players in there to help him, to support him, and to cut themselves. We know John McGinn. He's a very, very good player. We're not saying they have to rely on Scott McTominay. They've got players around him that could also do the business. The problem for Scotland is their reputation speaks for themselves. Never got out the group stage. Will that change this year, or will that kind of, what do you call it? That the history loom over them once again. Maybe they can change history. Steve Clarke, as you say, back-to-back qualifications now. Can he go that one step further and get his Scottish side out of the groups? Yeah,
and I will say as well, I have massive fears around Angus Gunn's abilities. So that is a big concern. And Che Adams as well, it's a big tournament for him. He could be looking to lay claim to a starting berth in the Premier League next season with Southampton. So for me, he never proved himself in the Premier League. If he seriously wants a shot at being the starting striker, a good Euro tournament would do him the world of good, because I think Southampton would likely look to move forward if they now they are promoted to the Premier League. So a big tournament could be huge for Che Adams. Let's move on to our final team then in this group, Switzerland. Round of 16, their best ever position. So they're not a side with a load of pedigree, but I would argue they've got quite a strong squad right now.
Yeah, it's an interest. I always find Switzerland very interesting because for me, they're kind of that middle team. They're not the whipping boys. They don't get beat every tournament. They're not bottom of the group. They're not a terrible side.
But as the stats say, they never get past round of 16.
But exactly, they're not one of those big sides that will push on and get to the latter stages and cause problems. They're a strong outfit. They're a decent side, and on their day they can beat the big nations, but they can't do that consistently, and that is their main problem. Is on their day they are hard to beat. They set up well, they've got good quality, but they lack the consistency to challenge against the big nations, because in this group they might draw with Germany. They could go and draw with Germany, but then I wouldn't be surprised they then went and lost to Hungary or dropped points at Scotland, and that is Switzerland's main problem for me. Is that they are that half and half team. They never get battered. They always give it a fight, but they never really push on and go deep in the tournament and beat some big sides and kind of put their name on the map, put their weight around. But maybe that's what this year, that in this tournament, that could change.
Yeah, well, you've only got to look at Qatar 2022 to see that they got through the group stage just about, and then they faced Portugal in the round 16 and lost 6-1. So they are a side who can clearly beat teams, but against the big sides, they're just a step off, which is weird because I do think there's a lot of quality. Now, picking out an individual player, I want to have a look at Zeki Amdouni because he's someone who we've not really seen take to the Premier League very well. He's not really done a lot, but equally you can mitigate that by saying Burnley aren't very good. But 6 goals in Euros qualifying puts him 7th in the top scorers rankings, and I think for Switzerland he's proven himself to be a really handy forward.
Yeah, 100%. And we were singing, we're giving Scott McTominay his plaudits for scoring 7, so we have to do the same for Amdouni for scoring 6. He had a
Slightly
really
less surprising than McTominay, but
of course, but he had a really, really good, strong campaign in the qualifiers, and if he can build on that, forget what's happened in the Premier League. To be honest, he's been a shining light in that Burnley side, and he's picked up some goals towards the end. And when we did Premier League predictions, he was always my go-to to find the goal because he's that kind of player. And that's the thing. If Switzerland,
Burnley database.
If Switzerland give him the chances and he gets the opportunities to score goals, he will take them. He is a good player. He's a good finisher, and in the right team, in the right opportunity, he will find a back of the net, and that's good. He could be good at this tournament.
Yeah, to talk about the manager as well, it's Murat Yakin's second tournament with the Swiss national side. He'll be hoping to do much better than that aforementioned Qatar World Cup, and I do think this group is going to be tough. I think you've got a really informed Scotland side, you've got a Hungary side that make themselves really difficult to beat, and you've got a Germany side who have home advantage, and of course this desire to get back to where they once were. But I think the progression into knockouts is quite feasible for Switzerland. Like, you obviously third place can get through depending on how many points you get. I think they could easily get 3 against Scotland, and they've only got to get a draw against Hungary or Germany. They can see themselves through to the knockouts. So I think Switzerland will turn up with a point to prove. Looking at their side then, there's actually there's a huge amount of talent in this team. We expect it will line up similar to a 3-4-1-2 in goal. You've got Jan Mavogo, quite a dependable shot stopper. In the back three, Rodriguez, Akanji, Fabian Schär. You've got 2 Premier League centre-halves there, both who've been playing in European football this year, and Ricardo Rodriguez has always been quite dependable. Across the 4, we expect to be Vidma, Xhaka, Ibisha and Ndoye. Ndoye being used in a bit of a weird role there. Obviously, he's a striker for Bologna, but we expect he'll be used out wide. Ibisha, of course, also doing very well in that Bologna side. He's been phenomenal for Thiago Motta this season. Granit Xhaka, we don't need to say much about him. He's been phenomenal in a Leverkusen side that were unbeaten until the Europa League final. And then Shaqiri, still popping up, coming in from the US, currently playing for Chicago Fire. He'll be there in attack midfield, and then the front line of Noah Okafor, really exciting young talent, and Zeki Amdouni. It's a really exciting attack, a really exciting team. I think realistically, we should be talking about Switzerland getting second here, but it just feels like they won't.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's an interesting one because as you say, it's a good team. It's the type of team where there's names you see and you reckon, even the most basic football fans will look at that side and they'll recognise names and they'll go, oh yeah, okay, they're a decent side. They've got some good players. And then as you look do a deeper dive, you see the talent and you see to be honest, I feel like, yes, it's a majority ageing squad, but it's mixed with a few young talents in there, and it's a good combination that you kind of want at a tournament. And as you say, they have a point to prove. Getting battered 6-1 by Portugal was embarrassing in December. They've got a point to prove. They're going to come out in this Euros and prove they are a good side, that they do not get beaten like that easily. And that's the fight they've got to bring, and that's the fight that Yakin has got to instill in his players, that they've got to go out there and change everyone's opinions on Switzerland. Because we look at that side, they're a good team. They've got some good players. They need to prove that on the pitch. It is a tough group. I'll give them some credit there. It's going to be tough to get through, but we know the potential of the manager and the side. They should be giving it a good go.
Yeah, they definitely should. I mean, you look at that squad, really, really solid team. They should be giving it a good go. You'd have to say, position for position, they should be stronger than Hungary and Scotland. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, can Switzerland finally get the business done?
Who knows?
Well, we'll find out this summer. But yes, we've got 8 days until the tournament starts. I'm very, very excited. Now, we're recording ahead of time, so this feels weird. But 8 days till the tournament starts. Germany, Scotland, the opening night. We're going to be covering every single game live for the Euro, so make sure to join us there. In a week's time, a week today actually, it will be our predictions for the full tournament. And of course, from now until the start of the tournament, every day, there'll be a new preview out for each group, so you can get excited for the tournament in Germany. I know we're excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. European Championship time. It doesn't get better than this. But that is everything from us today. Look out for tomorrow's Group B preview. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.